Hey everyone, it's Brandy and welcome back to my channel, Brandy Janae's Bookshelf. Today I'm here to do the part 2 of my April wrap up. It's a little delayed, but I feel like my wrap ups are usually kind of delayed because I read up until the end of the month. So I just want to make sure I have everything that I need to talk about in the wrap up done. Just in case you guys have not watched part 1 of my April wrap up already, I talked a little bit about why I decided to start trying to split up my wrap ups instead of having one big one where I talk about everything that I've read throughout the month. It was just getting to be a bit long and it was a pain in the butt to edit because I was having like an hour to an hour and a half of raw footage, and trying to get that done in a night to have it go up was just a lot of footage, and I was getting really overwhelmed with that. So I decided to try splitting it up, and I think that this was a really good idea. Before I get into the books that I read in the second half of the month, I do have some stats for the month overall. In April, I read a total of 28 books, and that came up to a total page count of 12,025 pages. For my average rating, I had a 4 stars even. I am once again going to start with rereads since I don't have ratings for those, and then I'll get into the other books that I read for the first time, and those will be going by rating from my lowest rated to my highest rated. For rereads, I'm just going in the order that I completed them in. So the first one that I have is Nixia by Scott Rankin. This is, hopefully you can see that without too much glare. This is a YA sci-fi novel, and this book is following Emmett Atwater. He gets this opportunity from this company called Babel Communications to go participate in something, and if he does this, then they're offering him a lot of money. He's a little skeptical about the situation because they're kind of sketchy and they don't tell him all of the details, but he's just like, you know what, I need to do this for them. He is meeting with this company along with 9 other people, so him total it's 10 teenagers that they have offered this opportunity to. They reveal that they want these teenagers to go to Eden, which is another planet, to primarily go there to mine the substance called Nixia. Soon after they reveal what they actually wanted them to do, they told them that they're actually not going to take everyone. They're only going to send 8 of the 10, I believe, down to Eden to actually go do that. And obviously that causes a whole lot more issues because they brought in 10 people, they only want 8, and they have to compete against each other in whatever ways that Babel deems necessary to decide who's going down to Eden and, you know, getting everything that was promised to them when they first started signing off contracts. So like I said, this was a reread for me. I had talked about this couple of different videos, I feel like, throughout April, and I wanted to reread this because I hadn't read it since like 2017 when I had an e-arc before it had even come out, and I think it was like a few months before it came out, and I haven't read it since. So I wanted to reread it because I want the finale for the trilogy came out this year, and I just wanted to read it all in the month. I didn't get to the other 2, but I decided to stick with my initial rating if you guys care about that at all, which was 4 stars. Might bump it up to a 4.5. I did have a few issues with some of the things, but it might just be because that was the way it was supposed to go. But I decided to just stick with my initial rating because it was reread and I didn't want to go through all of that. I do have a full written review up on my blog and on Goodreads. It might be easier to find on Goodreads, and then I have a link to my blog where the same review is posted. But anyway, I absolutely love this story. It's one of my favorites YA sci-fi novels, and I can't wait to continue on with the trilogy and read the other 2 books, which is my goal for the month if you haven't already seen my TBR for May. But yes, love the series, or I can't even say series because I've only read this book, but I love this book and I can't wait to see what happens after how this ended because it was crazy. And my only other reread for the second half of the month was The Crow Prince by Holly Black. This was the same thing as what I said with Nixia. I had the sequel because it came out in January, and I just wanted to reread it so I can move on to the sequel, which is The Wicked King. I'm sure you guys have already heard about this series, most likely because it is one of YA's current most popular series, especially since it's like ongoing. But just in case, or you want to hear someone else talk about it, this is following Jude. When she was 7 years old, her and her sisters were actually taken away and forced to live in the fairy world once their parents were murdered. And then 10 years later, we're following Jude as she has grown up in this fairy world, and now she's trying to make a place for herself. Initially, I gave it a 3.5 stars. I enjoyed it, but I felt like there was a lot of build-up, and that made the story drag a little bit. I felt like I appreciated this a lot more the second time around while reading, and I'm sure once I continue on in the series, it's going to make a lot more sense. So yeah, looking forward to that. Like I said, these were my 2 rereads for the month. Moving on to, like I said, all the rest of the books that I read, which are like first time reading these. The first book in this section that I have to talk about is Needing to Love You by Erin Riley. And I gave this one 2.5 stars, maybe even just 2 stars. This is a contemporary romance novel. This is actually a second book in like one of those companion series. It is a dual perspective story, and we're following Kelsey and Carlos. So Kelsey has recently gotten divorced, and she has a son who is about 3 or 4, and then Carlos is a police officer. So this story starts off with a prologue where the characters first meet, and I am assuming that this scene was actually something from the first book. We just get to see our main characters from this book's perspective, and then that night they go back to her house and they do hook up. And then once it goes into the first chapter, a year has passed, and I'm pretty sure that it opens up with the main character Carlos. He is waking up, he's in a hospital, he doesn't really know what's going on, and we quickly find out that he has been in a really bad accident. Kelsey shows up to the hospital, and some things are happening between different characters, but the main point is she offers to let him stay with her while he's recovering because he has nowhere else to go. There's a little bit of back and forth with that, but he ends up agreeing because he doesn't want to go back to, I think, San Antonio or something with his mom. And he's just like, you know what, that's fine, I'm just gonna go stay with her. As these things are happening, we do get little snippets of what has gone on between these characters over the year gap that we skip past. So we find out that he has actually pursued her past that night that they spent together, and he has wanted her to actually go out on a date with her. He was like interested in a relationship, not just sex, but she pretty much disregarded him. At first, he thought it was because she was in the middle of getting divorced. She wasn't actually divorced yet. And then afterwards, she still was turning him down. As you can expect, these different things are coming up as they're spending so much time together because he is in her house. I had several different issues with this book. I feel terrible about this because I was really excited. Sorry if this gets a little ranty because I haven't had the chance to like get it out yet. I think the number one issue that I had was that me and her writing style don't go well together. It was just something about her writing that I couldn't connect to, and because of that I couldn't really connect to the story, which really sucks. Okay, going into the next thing. Now, this might be nitpicky, I don't know. I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse. However, I have broken a bone. I haven't been in a car accident where I've broken a bone, but I have broken my ankle playing softball. So I'm just gonna preface this by saying that this guy was in a car accident and he broke his femur in 2 places. Basically, that's the big bone in your thigh. So he went home. He was not in a cast at all, which might be acceptable depending on what's going on, because I know sometimes depending on the type of injury or like maybe scarring, or they might have something to monitor his scar from when he had surgery. I don't know, but that it makes sense. He went home, he did not have a cast on. That was number one. I was just like, usually after surgery where they put a rod in your leg to like set the bone, you need a cast, because if you're moving around too much, then it's gonna negate the surgery and the stuff to put in there to hold everything in place. Okay, that's number one. Number two was she said he went home, no cast first of all, and then this could be completely my fault because like there wasn't any specific things that let you know how much time has passed. So my thinking is that some of these things were happening like a week later, or you know, like 2 weeks later. And usually, okay, when I had surgery, I think I had at least a month where I was just on crutches, no pressure, like I wasn't allowed to put any pressure on my ankle at all because it needed to set, it needed to heal. This guy went home, like I said, no cast, and he had a cane to walk around on his leg to get around the house. And this was like after he got released from the hospital. Now they don't keep you in the hospital that long. I think they might hold you a little longer for like that type of break, so you're not moving around too much. They can control it more in the hospital. But I don't know, you know, I don't know how long it had been, but he was literally walking around on his leg. He hadn't started physical therapy yet, which is usually when they start letting you put pressure on your stuff, is when you start physical therapy. But he had just got home and he had a cane and he was hobbling around to different places. Okay, sorry, that got me really mad because I was just like, that's something really simple that you don't have to break a bone. That's like, you can research that. What happens after you have been in an accident and broken a leg? What happens like medical wise? Because I looked it up and I was just like, what would you do if this, just to see if something was different that I didn't know about. It's like, no, crutches, you need crutches, like, or a walker. But at that point, you wouldn't be on a walker right after leaving the hospital. You need crutches because you can't put pressure on that. It broke in like 2 places. You have a rod in your leg and screws. No. Okay. Okay, I'm sorry. I need to rein it back in because I'm still on this first book in this section. So, okay, yeah. We had that situation and all of the things that came with that. And like, he ended up falling in the shower because he was just like, oh, let me try to get out of the shower using the towel rack that's screwed into the wall. He's like over, like, you know, 200 pounds or so of muscle, and he's just like, let me use this cane and the towel rack that's screwed into the wall to get out the shower. And then he stepped on, he put all of his pressure on his leg that he had surgery on recently. And I was just like, okay, no, you don't do that. I'm like, if anything, you supposed to wait until you get help. You supposed to like shift out and then use crutches, because no pressure at this point, because I still don't think he had started physical therapy. And then okay, I'm getting off topic because it was just like a bunch of little things around his actual injury that I was just like, that makes no sense, because no, that doesn't work like that. And like I said, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a nurse, but I know simple things like you're not going to be walking with pressure on your leg right after you get out of the hospital. Okay, moving on to the next thing. What was the next thing? The next thing was him getting using his pills to kind of erase his feeling of doubt that he would ever get better. You know, I think he had one hard day of physical therapy and then he was just like, I'm never gonna walk again. And then he went into this deep depression, which I'm sure that they talked to you about this stuff. And like, I get what she tried to do, because she was just like, his job is the only thing that's important to him. But I was like, he literally had one day of physical therapy. He's not going to be better in one day, especially considering he was supposed to be walking on his leg before that. Anyway, sorry, off topic again. He started taking way too many pills to kind of just zone out, not feel anything, and he went into this really deep depression. I have nothing to say against that, because it's kind of hard to, you know, judge how those type of things work. I have no experience with that. I don't know anyone who has dealt with anything like that, so I can't personally say. But the problem that I had with this was how easily the doctor kept prescribing him pain medication. Okay, let me get my thoughts together. I'm gonna try to wrap this up kind of quickly because I'm already like getting on and on about this again. Doctors have this thing where they talk to you about dependency on these pain meds, and the fact that a doctor consistently re-prescribed him pills, pain medication pills, when he was going through them way more quickly than he should have, because he said, I dropped them. I think he said he dropped them on the floor. I was just like, okay, so why didn't he say he dropped them on the floor and had somebody pick them up? And then the fact that the doctor kept prescribing them and they kept questioning, they was just like, oh well, that makes no sense, but let me give you a new prescription anyway. I was just like, are you kidding me? Just like, no doctor in their right mind. And this went on, I think, for like a month, like at least a month. And the doctor kept giving him pills and giving him pills. And I was just like, when he went through a stash of pills that should have lasted like a month and a couple weeks, you need to question what's going on, and then you need to stop prescribing them, because I know that there is a limit on how much they prescribe. And you know, once you get to a certain point, I think they might have you come in and look, see if something's wrong and make sure everything is okay before they even start doing all of that. It was just like so many things wrong, like on the technical standpoint. I was just like, that would not happen like that. Okay, so now that I have pretty much gotten out the negative points of this, even though I kind of went off on a tangent and I might have like cut stuff off, I don't know, but I will say the saving grace of this was that I believe the chemistry between the two characters when it came to the actual romance, which I felt like there wasn't a whole lot of when looking at it in comparison to everything else that was going on. I believed that they were attracted to each other and they wanted to be with each other, and they were corny and they were cute, and that part of it I could get with, which is why I gave it like 2 stars instead of 1, because of those moments. But, and you know, like the way that they came together and the way he was with her son, like all of those things I was okay with. Those moments were good. However, everything else kind of overshadowed that, and I was just like, I just wanted to throw the whole book away at that point, because I was just like, all of this is dumb, none of this will happen. Like what? Like it seems like no research was done. Anyway, I'm gonna stop talking about this because I've talked about it way too long, and we're gonna move on to the next book. So the next one that I have to talk about is Spell of Desire Volume 1 by Tomu Omi. This manga series is following this character named Karuko. I'm probably saying that really wrong, but she runs this herb shop in this small town. She used to work with her grandmother, but I think her grandmother has recently passed, or somewhat recently passed, so she has opened up her own shop, or maybe it's like her grandmother's shop, or I don't know, something like that. And she's using recipes that her grandmother has used before, and some strange things have been occurring in her life recently. One day this guy shows up in the middle of this other strange thing that's going on, and he helps her out, and then he ends up telling her that she's actually a witch, and that her mother, who she thought was dead, is actually still alive, but her mother put her powers into her, and he was sent to protect those powers, so in turn he's there to protect her. As you can expect, she doesn't believe him at first, but after some more weird things start happening and he's there to kind of help control the situation, she kind of just goes along with it and was just like, well, there's nothing I can really do about this right now. I think the story was decent, and it is one that I do plan on continuing. I have, I think, the rest of the series on hold from the library, so I will be reading those as soon as I have access to them. But this was a strange one, but you know, if you like witch stuff and romance and manga, it's one that you might want to check out because you might enjoy it. Yeah, I didn't really have too much to say about that one, sorry. Moving into the next book, which is Night Chaser by Amanda Boucher. This one was actually the March book pick for the Wicked Spirits book club, I'm pretty sure. And I didn't read it in March, so I ended up reading it in April, because we did like a dual live show in April for our March and April pick. So if you guys are interested, I do have a live show. That live show was on my channel, so I have that up if you are interested in going back and watching us talk more in detail about this one. And Angel's Blood by Nalini Singh. But for this book, it's an adult sci-fi romance. This is a dual perspective story following Tess Bailey and Shay Ganavan. So Tess is a wanted fugitive. We open up the story and she's on a ship with her crew. They are actually being pursued because they have recently stolen this lab. They don't really know what the importance of this lab is when they stole it, but they found it, and Tess thought that maybe they can take the supplies from this lab and go and give it to people in need in different parts of the galaxy, which is what her and her crew have been doing. They end up actually getting away from the people who were pursuing them, and they go off to seek help to repair their ship after some things that they were in. I don't really want to talk about that because I was just like, what? There's a good way to start off this book. And when she goes to get help to repair her ship, that's where she meets Shade. Shade Ganavan is actually a bounty hunter, and he has been doing this for I think years now. He is trying to get money to buy back property that he lost when his family died. Once he finds out about this bounty that has been placed on Tess, he is faced with this decision because he's just like, this amount of money can help me get everything that I need. But as he gets to know her and talk to her a bit more, he has to decide whether he wants to turn her in for the money or if he wants to let her go or possibly help her. As you can expect, they kind of get intertwined because of those type of things. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. I really enjoyed this. I feel like I don't have a whole lot to talk about. If you're interested in more details, you can definitely go check out the live show that we had, and I'm definitely looking forward to the next book that comes out in the series. The next one that I have to talk about is Twin Star Exorcist Volume 1 by Yoshiaki Tsukino. So this one is following this character named Rokuro. I'm just gonna say this now. I'm probably saying all these characters' names wrong, but I'm trying. And Rokuro is the guy character, and he comes from this family of exorcists. But because of this tragedy that happened when he was younger, he has sworn off becoming an exorcist. He is determined to do any and everything but become an exorcist. But being an exorcist is like his thing. That's the only thing that he's really good at. I think when it opens up, it's just like he has talked about playing soccer or trying to become an idol, and he's just like, he even like confessed to a girl I think at the very beginning of this, and she was just like, yeah, no thanks. And he goes home and he's just like, well, what's wrong with me? Because she had said something along the lines of like, what's right with you? He goes home and they kind of tease him about it. He was just like, you know what, I'm running away. And it's just like, hey, you know, go pick up some soy sauce on your way home or something like that. And while he was out going to do that, he ends up running into Benio, not really sure how you say that, which is this character here. She ends up asking him for instructions on how to get to this location. She has this map, but she's pretty lost, and he's trying to help her. And as he's trying to help her, these like 2 kids end up going missing on the street, and she ends up like going to this other world, and he ends up like somehow going with her, and he finds out that she's actually an exorcist as well. She went to go try to fight these things so she could save these kids, and she wasn't doing too well by herself, so he ends up stepping in to help out, which is how she finds out that he's also an exorcist. But he's just like, you know what, I'm not about that. I don't want to have anything to do with that. And then after they separate, he ends up going back home to find her at his house. Turns out that she has actually come to like stay with them. Some things happen in between that, and it turns out that their the twin star exorcist, which is, you know, the title of this. And they're meant to get married and birth the child who is supposed to be like the best exorcist ever to exist. I was pleasantly surprised by this. I'm not sure if I said already, but I did also give this one 4 stars. The next book that I have to talk about is Food Wars Volume 29 by Yudo Sakuda. As you can probably expect, the characters are in the middle of this big battle to determine the fate of some of our students. I have been talking about this same storyline for a few volumes now. I think it might be like at least five volumes that have this specific story arc. It is nearing the end of this specific story arc, so I am definitely curious to see how it all plays out. I will say that I was really happy that they kind of compressed things that were happening in this volume, because I think I mentioned this in several different volumes. I was getting kind of tired of only like a volume being like a round and a half of something, and then it just kept going on and on. I'm kind of ready for this to wrap up and to see what's going to happen next. I did enjoy this one. It wasn't like one of my favorites. I ended up giving this one 4 stars. The next one that I have to talk about is Crown of Feathers by Nikki Papreto. This is a YA fantasy novel. This is a multi-perspective story. I believe it's following 3 different perspectives, which is Veronica, Seb, and Tristan. The story is pretty much just following them as they go about their journeys, and like I said, they connect with each other in different ways throughout the book. Okay, so I am going to do my best to kind of explain some things that were happening with the story, but if it sounds a little crazy, I'm sorry. Like I said, it takes place in a fantasy world, and in this world certain people have magic. Mainly where these people with these magic end up being able to communicate or being able to have some type of connection with animals, and they're known as animages. There's also a secondary magic. It could possibly be more, but the only other magic that was mentioned, or like the type of magic or type of people with the magic, were known as shadow mages. And those people, it's like their magic is similar to what they have, like what animages have, but shadow mages are able to like go into people's minds and like read their thoughts or take thoughts from them or push certain thoughts or opinions on people. And it's like it's what they have with animals but on people for shadow mages. So hopefully that makes sense. We find out pretty quickly that our main character Veronica, as well as her sister Val, they're both animages and shadow mages, and it seems like Val is training Veronica as they go along. Animages have the ability to bond with phoenixes. If they are able to like get a phoenix egg and hatch them, they have the ability to bond with them. And as a result of that, if they do that and go through like specific training and stuff like that, they are able to become a phoenix rider. But in the current day, phoenix riders have been outlawed because of the results of the blood war that has happened. All the phoenixes have either been killed off or they're being held hostage, along with animages. If animages are caught using their magic at all, then they are forced into a life of servitude. Like I said, we're following 3 different characters, and they're different points in this world. So Veronica, like I said, she's with her older sister Val. At the beginning of the story, they have these phoenix eggs and they are trying to hatch them, and there are some things that come along with that. And then we have Seb, who is also an animage, but he's actually hiding the fact that he is currently a soldier for the Golden Empire. And then we're also following Tristan, who is another animage, but he is actually part of the Phoenix Riders that are still like alive and well today. He's training to be a Phoenix Rider, but he is actually afraid of like fire, and his father is the general, I believe, of the Phoenix Riders. So he has a lot to prove, and there's a lot of different things that are going on with him. I know that was a bit all over the place with me trying to explain that, but I did really enjoy this one as well. I gave it 4 stars. This one I will say was a little slow to start, and I ended up picking up the audiobook because I was trying to read it in a short amount of time. Alright, so I only have a few more books to talk about. This next one should be pretty short, and that is The Water Princess by Susan Verde. I actually had this as a 5-star before, but I think I decided to lower my rating when I was doing this to a 4-star. I always feel weird about trying to rate picture books, which I think is why I initially gave it 5 stars. This wasn't like my favorite picture book, but it's definitely one I would recommend because it does give a different perspective on life. So in this book, we are following Gigi, and she lives with her mother and her father, I believe. I don't think she has any siblings. And this pretty much goes on the journey with Gigi as her and her mother have to get up every morning before the sun even comes up to go travel to this well to bring back water for the family. And she talks about how she dreams about having the water come to her, but this is something that they have to do, like I said, every single day. At the back of this, we did get a little bit of information about how this is something that people are going through, you know, today. And this was based off of, I'm not sure if you can see the top of that. I'm sorry, I'm moving this around a lot. But this was based off of Georgie Badil. I believe she is, I think the dust jacket says she's a model, but it's based off of her experience. If you see this around, it's a really quick read. It took me maybe like 5 minutes, if that, to read it. The second to last book that I have to talk about in this video is Marked in Flesh by Anne Bishop. This is book 4 in the other series. This is another one. It's kind of weird. I can't tell you too much about everything that's going on because they build on each other, and it's just like as each book goes along, the world expands and more problems are revealed that are going on in this world. So currently things are really starting to change in this world. This movement called the Humans First and Last movement have been stirring up trouble. Because of this, all of the elders, who are what they keep calling Nemets, teeth and claws, are coming out, and they're starting to like pay attention to what's going on with the humans. Some things go down in this book. We already know people can be really dumb in certain situations, and these people in here are just being extremely dumb. They thought that they can antagonize the situation, kill off a bunch of the others, and then that was going to get them their way. They didn't realize, like I said, that these elders were there watching, and they ended up causing a lot more trouble than it was probably worth these humans to even start. Things got a little crazy in here, and it's also really creepy because, you know, even the others that we have seen, all of them are afraid of the elders. They're just like, we don't mess around with them. We try to leave them where they are, let them do what they do and not cause too much attention here, because when they come out, we go and, you know, we go mind our own business, let them take care of whatever they want to do, because we don't have time for that, basically. I feel like the author kind of maybe didn't go as far as she could have gone, because when the elders finally come out and like they start hunting people down, we kind of just, it's kind of brushed over. We get to see like little glimpses of people who were smart and they knew what to do in order to help save themselves, but all of the other people we kind of just like didn't really get a whole bunch of. But we also saw that they're now interested in Meg, and because of that, some more things might be changing on their part and what they're willing to allow because they're so interested in her. It's crazy, but I enjoyed this one. I gave it actually a 4.5 stars. I think this is the highest rated one that I gave. I think in large part that had to do with the audiobook. It's something about this writing style that I can't completely give it 5 stars. And then the final book that I have to talk about, which was my favorite read for the second half of April, is My Brother's Husband Volume 2 by Gengaro Tagami. Gave this one 5 stars. We're just going to start off with that. This one is just a continuation of Volume 1. So in Volume 1, we meet Yachi, who is a stay-at-home dad, and at the beginning of the story he has to deal with a lot of prejudice that he has grown up with when his brother's husband Mike comes to visit. His brother has recently passed away, and Mike is there to kind of get to know more about where his husband Ryoji came from, where he grew up, and all of the things that he has talked about with him, but he didn't get to go experience with him. Yachi, like I said, he has to get over a lot of the prejudices that he has grown up with, and he has to reevaluate everything that he knows, especially with his daughter being as open as she is to the entire situation, and he doesn't really know how to react. We're getting to see that in volume 1, and in volume 2, Yachi still struggles with some of these things. I feel like he has accepted Mike, and in terms he has accepted his brother, but he still has struggles when it comes to like the public view. But as we go through volume 2, we see Yachi realize that just because like an entire society or like an entire country of people think that something different is wrong, that doesn't make it true. And we get to see him start to challenge people in his community. We get to see him challenge them and like question like, why is this wrong? I don't know what else to say about this. I absolutely love the series, and I still need to get like a physical copy of book 2 because it's one of my favorite manga series ever, and it's definitely one that I'm going to reread in the future and recommend to people. If you don't want to pick up your own copies, because I know that they are kind of expensive, talk to your library or request them and see if they'll purchase them, because they're definitely ones that I think a lot of people should check out for sure. And with that, I have rambled on for way too long. I think this is going to end up being about as long as one of the ones that I did before, just because I was rambling about that one book at the beginning. So hopefully I can cut some of that down. But those were all the books that I read in the second half of April. Let me know some of the books that you read, and if you have read any of these, let me know what you thought about them. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you again in the next one. Bye.